Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's King. What if here? You read the title. What if Midoriya had Miles Morales' powers? Part 3. Now, there was a mistake I did in the last part, but that was like a month or two ago, so I didn't really remember, but I did just watch the video. I wanted to make Midoriya unlock his Venom powers at I wanted to make Midoriya unlock his Venom powers during the fight with the Nomu. But now I have to make him do it during the sports festival. But I already know where he's gonna unlock it. His Venom power will be blue, unless anybody else wants to change the color. Comment down if you want. Anyway, yeah. The Venom power will be blue. But let's get into it. Mr. Aizawa would have walked into Where we last left off, Mr. Aizawa had told the students about the sports festival, and he had given the students 2 weeks to train. Over the 2 weeks, Midori would train himself, just working out and running, as those were all that he knew about his powers for now. The sports festival, oh dang, did I make Midori get first place in this? Damn it, I don't remember this part. Never mind, it's whatever. Well, okay, I'm back. He did win. The students would be, after the 2 weeks of training, they would go back to school for the sports festival. Midori would be inside, just trying to calm himself. Uraka would be trying to give emotional support. Todoroki would go to, Todoroki would go to, Todoroki would go to Midoriya. He'd say, Midoriya, from an objective standpoint, I stand to have more fire power than you. Todoroki would say, as he'd say, out of everybody in this class, you're the one I want to beat. I declare war to you. The other students would try to break them up, but it wouldn't work. Todoroki would reveal that he wasn't here to make friends. Midoriya would say, I know you're stronger than me, Todoroki, but I'm still gonna try to fight. They would go out, as Midnight would say, let's hear a word for our first year representatives, as they'd be like, what? He's the representative? As Ito would say, well, he did get the sports fest. He did get first in the entrance exam. As another student from a different course would say, yeah, only in the UA, hero course entrance exam. As the other classes would feel weird. Midori would say, everybody should try their best. As that be all. The crowd would, and other students would think that was pretty weak. As Midori would be thinking, should I have said more? Anyway, it didn't matter. The first event was gonna happen. Midnight would have randomized it. An obstacle race. The students would line up by an entrance in the arena. As go! The students would run. President Mike would provide some commentary while asking Mr. Aizawa where he should be looking out. The door, Mr. Aizawa would reply, as everybody would be stuck. Now, this stuckness would be replaced by a chilling cold, as Todoroki would run out. Although some of the classmates would have gotten out. Midori himself. Midori would have pushed the other students away, and he would have jumped on the wall. While on the wall, he'd be crawling. Yes, he'd be crawling on the wall. He would be crawling on the wall. He'd exit. While exit, he'd see other people running too. Todoroki would be running as Mineta would be bouncing, trying to grab at Todoroki, but the 0-point robot would have slapped Mineta. Todoroki would say, so these are the robots that the other students faced in their entrance exam. Well, I hope they would have provided something more, especially since my dear old dad is watching, Todoroki would have said, before shooting a massive ice pillar while the robot was unbalanced. As he'd start to run, other students would notice that there were entranceways is Midoriya would feel something in his head. He'd tell everybody to stop, as Todoroki would say while running away. Watch out! I froze it while it was off balance. The robot would fall. Some people would have taken Midoriya's warning, as Midoriya would just jump over the robot. Not over it, but he'd jump on the robot running. Due to his enhanced speed, he could probably catch up to Todoroki and even surpass him. But he didn't know the trials ahead. While running, they'd run into small robots. Midoriya would just dodge these robots, not wanting to do anything with them. They'd reach the pit scene. It was an obstacle where you had to cross over small lines. Now, Midoriya would be, now, at this point, Todoroki would have already passed everybody because he didn't have to do all the other stuff. Midoriya would see this, as Midoriya would easily just run across the ropes, catching up pretty quickly. Now, if you're wondering how he can do this, another thing to spider powers is you have amazing balance. As an example, in the Amazing Spider-Man movie, do you remember when Peter was doing a one-handed handstand with 3 fingers over a ledge with perfect balance? Yeah, so I'm pretty sure if someone can do that, they can do this. As Midoriya would rush. Now, there'd be a minefield. Midoriya wouldn't know how to handle the situation. He would just start moving slowly. Eventually, when moving, Midoriya would step on a mine. His spider sense would tingle as he'd move out the way, stepping on another mine as he'd start to move. Eventually, he'd get to an area where he didn't step on the mines. Midoriya knew that he had to take this slow and steady. He'd see he'd see Bakugo fly right past him, as Todoroki and Bakugo would be in first place. Midoriya knew he could like do a giant jump. But he didn't know what to do. Midoriya would carefully move his way throughout the maneuverings procedure. Although he was quick, he ended up getting third place. Uraraka would say, Deku, you got third place. Good for you. Midoriya would be thinking, I could have gotten first place, but it doesn't matter now. They would announce the winners. Bakugo would have gotten first place, Todoroki second, and Midoriya third. The other ones didn't really matter. They would explain the next event and how the first person had 1,000,000 points. Midoriya would be thinking, so all the other teams will be going after his points. But it doesn't matter. As long as I keep my headband, I have a good chance of passing on to the next round. Midoriya would think. Midoriya would go form his team. Now, due to not many people avoiding him this time, he knew what he could do. He would go try to recruit Ida, as Ida would refuse, saying that Ida was like in his shadow. He already joined Todoroki. Uraraka would go to Midoriya, as she'd say, "Hey, Midoriya, let's be teammates." Midoriya would say, "Really?" Not crying this time, because nobody was really avoiding him. Actually, many people were asking to be on his team. But, many people will ask to be on his team. Uraraka would have already secured her spot. Many people would ask to be on his team, as Midoriya didn't know what to do. Then a pink-haired girl wearing some weird glasses would have offered to help. She would say Midoriya didn't want to fight the other teammates, or at least he didn't want to fight for that long, and he wanted to run away like a coward. Midoriya would have said, "You didn't have to say it like that, but sort of." Hatsune would provide her support item gear, and they could use it to get around. Now Midoriya just needed one more teammate. He knew who to get. He'd go to Tokoyami. Actually, wait. Let me try to change this. Okay, so powers, and then that. Someone who didn't pass. Nah, forget it. Yeah, screw it. He go to Tokoyami getting his assistance. The match would start. Most people would be going after the number 3 headband. Actually, most people would be going after the 1 million point headband. Midori had a thing. Midori had a plan. He knew that everybody, especially the lower level team, would try to get the 1 million points, which is why he couldn't go there. Because getting the 1 million points when he didn't really need it would be pointless. All he had to do was get enough to pass, and get extra if he could. See, while many people were trying to get the 1 million point headband, Midoriya and his team would have stolen 2 other people's headbands. No, Midoriya, Midoriya would have stolen the headbands. The teams would have noticed as they try to get it back from Midoriya. Midoriya would easily just Midoriya, using Hatsume's device and Uraraka's quirk, would get over it. Some people would try to attack Midoriya to get some points, as Dark Shadow would evade them. Midoriya would be going as a few minutes would go by. During these minutes, Bako would have had an encounter with Monoma from Class 1A. Monoma would have enraged Bakugo, a mistake that he would surely regret. But Monoma wasn't gonna go down that easy. That's how I'll do it. No, I won't. Monoma would put an airfield to try to get away, but Bakugo would end up taking the points. Meanwhile, throughout the time where Bakugo and Monoma were fighting, Midoriya and his team would have gotten some of their boots destroyed. The boots from Hatsume were a little destroyed. My head. The boots from Hatsume got destroyed. They weren't able to move, as they were also trapped by Todoroki. Now, Ida would have done his super move, as Todoroki would have rushed past, grabbing the headband. He would have rushed past, grabbing a headband. Midoriya knew that the 2 headbands he took from other teams were too low level to pass, so he needed more. No. So when Ida ran past, Midoriya actually had a little spider sense. And while running, Midoriya was able to grab a headband, but it was too low numbered. They would go again as Kaminari would shoot an electric attack, flying past. The teams would be announced. Team Todoroki, first place. Team Bako, second place. Team Shinzo. Actually, yeah, no. Team Todoroki, first place. Team Bako, second place. Team Midoriya, third place. And Team Shinzo, first place. Due to the number that him having those extra 2 numbers, plus grabbing one and Tokoyami, they were able to grab most of Todoroki's headbands, passing on. Now, I don't know if the events would change drastically. Actually, the events this time would change drastically. Due to them not being in the same order of which they won, they would have drawn lots differently. Which means I'm just gonna switch up everything. So I'm saying, first match, Uraraka versus Tokoyami. Second match, Hatsume versus Todoroki. Third match, Kirishima versus... wait, real fast. Sorry, I'm back. I had to grab a pen because I knew for a fact I was not going to remember any of that. So, yeah, where were we? Let me find a page. Because I had made a page for My Alien Academia, but nobody wanted it, so... it was basically a whole universe where all the characters were replaced with Ben 10 aliens and stuff. It was actually really good. Nobody wanted it, so... anyway, let's go, shall we? Okay, I'm back. So there will be a new order this time, and here it is. In the first match, Uraraka versus Tokoyami. Second match, Kirishima versus Mina. Third match, Shinjo versus Imbari. Fourth match, Deku versus Zero. Fifth match, Todoroki versus Hatsume. Sixth match, Tetsu Tetsu versus Momo. Seventh match, Ayama versus Ida. Eighth match, Kirishima versus Bakugo. With the first match starting, Uraraka versus Tokoyami. Uraraka knows that. Wait, would Dark. Wait, would. Would Zero Gravity work on Dark Shadow? Actually, I have an idea. The match would start. Uraraka would rush at Tokoyami, trying to grab. Uraraka wouldn't move. She'd hope for Tokoyami to make Dark Shadow come to her. Tokoyami would start to run to Uraraka, chasing up her entire strategy. Uraraka would be wondering what he was, what she was. Wait a minute. No, no, I can do it. I can do it. Anyway, Tokoyami would be wondering what I mean, Uraraka would be wondering what to do. Tokoyami would go for the attack. No, Tokoyami would go for the Tokoyami would go for the attack. Uraraka would dodge it, touching Tokoyami, making him weightless. Tokoyami would then close Dark Shadow, as Dark Shadow would wrap around Uraraka. Uraraka would make Dark Shadow weightless too. It didn't matter how weightless he was, as long as he was holding on to Uraraka. Uraraka, not knowing what to do, had no choice but to drag Dark Shadow into the ring. Actually, I messed that first one all the way up. So the match would start with Tokoyami deploying Dark Shadow at Uraraka. Uraraka would want this, as Uraraka had an idea. It was gonna win the match easily. Tokoyami would shoot Dark Shadow out to Uraraka, as Uraraka would touch Dark Shadow, making him weightless. With this, Uraraka would grab Dark Shadow and start spinning him. Now Tokoyami was still heavy, so knowing that Dark Shadow would be out of the fight, it meant that she could take care of Tokoyami. While grabbing Dark Shadow, she would put Dark Shadow couldn't really Tokoyami couldn't pull Dark Shadow and due to him being weightless. Apparently, soon Tokoyami would be close to Uraraka, and Uraraka would touch Tokoyami, making him weightless. Using Dark Shadow as a rope, Uraraka would throw Dark Shadow out of the ring, releasing when Tokoyami was at a safe distance, winning the match. Tokoyami would acknowledge Uraraka's strength and say that he was careless. Okay, so that was already bam, Uraraka won. There'd be time. Anyway, the next match, Kirishima versus Mina. The match would start. Kirishima would say, Mina, just give up. You know nothing's gonna happen. Tokoyami knew that. Kirishima would rush at Mina. Mina would shoot her acid, but Kirishima's skin was holding out. Plan was to push Mina out of bounds. While running, Mina would see Kirishima as she would dodge. Mina was really athletic, so it didn't matter how strong Todoroki was. It didn't matter. He was still. How strong Kirishima was. He was still gonna lose. Mina would keep shooting acid at Todoroki's skin. Even though it was hard, Todoroki hadn't reached the unbreakable limit yet, so Todoroki's skin started to feel the acid. Mina was quick and had lots of stamina. She eventually drew Kirishima out. She would throw after Kirishima hardening couldn't withstand no more of Mina's acid. She would throw acid at Kirishima's clothes. Kirishima would say giving up wasn't a manly thing, as Kirishima would rush at Mina. Mina would jump over Kirishima as Kirishima would run out of bounds. Now, if you don't like how these matches are going, it's not like, it's not like I have favorites. It's just that this is like what would happen. You have to think of reality. Mina is way more agile than Kirishima and faster. And at this point, Kirishima had like the time limit and couldn't take that much damage. He could take damage, but you understand. And Mina, if Kirishima didn't like rush at her, she would burn Kirishima. So if you don't like this, then it's just like what would actually happen. Okay? So sorry if you don't like this, but I'm just being honest with what would actually happen. The third match would be Shinjo versus Imbari. The match would start as Imbari would deploy her hair, grabbing Shinzo. Shinzo would say, "This is a nice quirk. What's it called?" Imbari would say, "Thank you. My quirk is called," before getting stopped. Shinjo would tell Imbari to put him down. Imbari would put Shinzo down, as Shinzo would tell Imbari to walk out the ring. Imbari would walk out the ring, Shinzo winning the match. Anyway, yeah. So Shinzo passes on. The fourth match, Deku versus Sero. Sero would shoot his tape immediately, wrapping Midoriya. He would be trying to throw Midoriya out of bounds. Midoriya would stop himself from getting out of bounds, using his sheer willpower. With the tape still connected to Sero's elbows, Midoriya would try to throw Sero out of the ring, but Sero would detach the tape. Sero would keep shooting tapes as Midoriya would run closer to Sero. Midoriya would dropkick Sero out of the ring, as he would win the match, moving on to second place. Fourth match, Todoroki versus Hatsume. Unfortunately, while Todoroki was walking, he'd encounter his father. "Use your left side, Shoto. It's embarrassing." Shoto would reply to his father that he was going to win only using his mom's side of his quirk. As Kirishima would say, "That quirk will have some limits, boy." As Kirishima would be mad, as Todoroki would be mad. The match would start with Todoroki doing a giant ice thing, instantly trapping Hatsume. Hatsume would say, "I didn't have gadgets for this." Midnight, half frozen, would say, "Hatsume, can you move?" As Hatsume would say, "I can't move," as Todoroki would win the match. Anyway, the sixth match, Tetsu versus Momo. Now the match would start. Momo would create a shield and a staff. Momo didn't know how she was going to win this match, but she was going to try. Tetsu would say, "Yeah," as he'd rush at Momo. While rushing at Momo, he'd throw a punch at Momo's stomach. Momo would block it using her shield, as she would attack his skin with the staff. Tetsu would block it, Tetsu would block the staff. Momo would keep trying to attack Tetsu. Tetsu wouldn't even be attacking, showing off a little. She'd say, "Sorry, but my quirk isn't that easy to destroy." As Momo would run around, Tetsu would say, "Stop making this hard on yourself." Momo would create smoke bombs, as Tetsu would be looking around for where Momo was. As out of the smoke, Momo would have created a cannon, like the one she did to take down that zero-point robot. Momo would say, "Sorry, it doesn't matter how hard your skin is. You're still a person who obeys the laws of gravity." She would shoot the cannon, as the cannon would, with enough force, would send Tetsu out of bounds, knocking him out even. So Momo goes on to the second match. I bet you guys thought Momo was gonna lose. Okay, seventh match. Ayama versus Ida. This match would be quick. Ayama would shoot at Ida, but Ida's speed was too great. Finally, Ayama would decide to shoot a long beam. He would shoot a long beam as Ida would activate his reciprocal burst, running around Ayama. Ayama would eventually be tired as Ayama's stomach would be hurting. Ida would just push Ayama out of bounds, sort of like how he did to Embari. Ida wins the match. And then the last match, Kirishima versus Bakugo. Bakugo knew he couldn't win the match. Not Bakugo. Kirishima knew he couldn't win the match. As soon as the match started, Kirishima said, indiscriminate shock, 1.8 million volts, as he would let it off. Kirishima would be stupid as Bakugo would land on the ground. Bakugo would say, I knew you were going to use your full extent I knew you were going to use all your power, you idiot. That's why I went up high, so that when you were going to use it, I wouldn't be hit. As Bakugo would go over to Kirishima, exploding him, making him fall over. They would take him out because he couldn't participate anymore. Now, it would be lunchtime. Everybody would go to lunch, especially Momo, because she needed to eat stuff, as Todoroki and Deku would have the same match. The same talk with Bakugo eavesdropping, because he's nosy. Anyway, Todoroki would tell Midoriya to win, so he could beat him with his own power and stuff. Midoriya would say, okay, but we're all trying our hardest. And if you're gonna fight me, I expect you to try my hardest. So you to try your hardest too. Anyway, the semifinals. Wait, if I do that, 1, 2. Anyway, technically, would that be okay? The next round, the second round would start. First, it'd be Uraraka versus Mina. Mina had already won this one. It's obvious. Uraraka, since the stage was fixed, Uraraka couldn't touch anything. All Mina had to do was throw stuff at Uraraka, and Mina was still way agile for Uraraka. Mina would throw acid at Uraraka. Uraraka would use her clothes to block it though. Mina would eventually throw acid at Uraraka's things. The acid would be burning through her clothes as it would start to burn Uraraka. Mina would then throw acid at Uraraka's legs. Them being burnt, Uraraka would have to forfeit the match. Mina moving on. Anyway. Oh, shoot. Anyway. Throat's dry, sorry. Anyway, Mina would win. Next match would be Shinzo versus Deku. Now, due to Deku seeing and Ochiko telling, Midori had a good grasp on his power, on Shinzo's powers. Shinzo would then start to insult Ochiko, which would make Midoriya mad, saying something as Shinzo would have said, "You're caught." Now, I'm pretty sure Spider-Man could resist against brainwashing, as this is okay. So Midoriya would be walking out. He'd say, I can't let it end here. I still have to change Todoroki. I still have to change him. When all of a sudden, a blue energy would be in Midoriya's chest. And all of a sudden, I won't lose here, Midoriya would think to himself, as the blue energy would sort of explode, making a burnt hole in Midoriya's chest. As he'd be like, what was that? He'd say, Midori would be thinking, what was that? Shinzo would be like, "How did you do that?" As the crowd, the students of Class 1A would be shocked. Like, did he just do some sort of electric? What was that? Was that some sort of lightning energy power? And so Aizawa would be shocked too, looking at his quirk paper, because he had it up to compare it to him and Shinzo, as he'd be wondering, what is going on? Anyway, Shinzo would ask how Midoriya did that. In fact, I'm not, as Shinzo would be like that he was blessed to have a heroic quirk and stuff. As Midoriya would be saying, I know, I've been in your situation. I mean, Midoriya wouldn't say I was blessed by others this time, but still, you know. Anyway, yeah, the same way, except Shinzo would have been brought out the same way. Instead of punching Midoriya in the broken fingers, he would have karate chopped Midoriya in the throat, and Midoriya would have still thrown him out. Midoriya, yeah. Usually, whenever I make this type of what if all the time because it's actually one of my favorite ones. So I just make it in my head, and I always make him unlock the powers at the USJ. But actually, I kind of like this one now. So Midoriya moves on to the semifinals. Wait a minute. Yeah, semifinals. Oh shoot! Dang it! It's gonna have to be that match. Oh, it doesn't matter. It don't matter. Wait, no, this is the semifinals. Yeah, Midoriya moves on to the finals. Anyway, the next match is Todoroki versus Momo. Momo knows. Momo. Till the match starts, Todoroki shoots a beam at Momo. Momo creates like a box under her feet as she uses it to jump off of so she couldn't get stuck. Momo then creates a gun with plastic bullets. Actually, no. For this, Momo actually researched. I don't even know. Momo, Momo would get trapped and lose. I was about to say something stupid, like she was gonna she created matches and had perfume and was gonna burn the ice like a flamethrower. Something stupid like that. Anyway, Todoroki wins. You already knew it. Todoroki. And now, the last match of the semifinals. Ida versus Bakugo. You already know Bakugo's gonna win, but for the heck, I'll explain it. Now, Ida versus Bakugo. Ida would rush at Bakugo trying to push him out of bounds, as Bakugo's quick reaction times wouldn't let that happen. Ida would rush at Bakugo. Again, Ida would do multi-kicks at Bakugo. Ida would activate his Super Burst. He'd run at Bakugo through the smoke of Bakugo's explosions. Ida would go for a kick to the head to knock Bakugo out. Bakugo's reaction time was too quick. He would duck under the kick. He'd put his hands together, creating a flash grenade. While doing this, Bakugo would explode Ida out of the ring, sort of like how he exploded Kirishima, just rapidly exploding until, Ida was out of the ring. There. Now moving to the finals. Mina versus Midoriya. Now Mina would say, Midoriya, I don't really know what that new power was, but you wouldn't use it on a girl, right? Midoriya would say, I don't have to. He'd rush at Mina. Mina would throw her acid, but Midoriya would just flip over them and stuff. Midoriya would go to Mina as he would kick Mina. Wait, no. Actually, yeah. Midoriya would go to Mina. Mina would go for a punch as Mina would go for an uppercut. Midoriya would do a flip over her. Mina would see Midoriya as Midoriya would go under Mina's legs as he would get up and kick Midoriya he'd kick Mina in the back, sending her out of bounds. Midoriya would say, "Sorry, Mina, but I didn't want to kick you in the chest." As he'd also apologize for going under her. But you were wearing pants, so as Midoriya would win. Who would have guessed? Now, Bakugo versus Todoroki. Due to them not being able to have a chat, Todoroki would shoot a giant ice beam at Bakugo. Bakugo would block it. Bakugo would explode his way out. As he'd say, "This is easy." He'd like pull himself back like a slingshot. He'd rush at Todoroki. Todoroki would shoot out his hand to attack him. As Bakugo would use his quick thinking and go to Todoroki's left side, where he'd grab a part of Todoroki's costume and his hair, throwing him. Todoroki would ice surf around, creating a ring around Bakugo as he'd go for an attack, but Bakugo would just do an explosion flying towards Todoroki. Todoroki would bring out his hand. He'd freeze Bakugo's hand, throwing him across. Bakugo would light the explosion. But although, due to Bakugo's hands being frozen, Bakugo couldn't really use his explosion since there was too much water on his hands. And plus his hands were still really cold. And I'm guessing that Bakugo's quirk works better in the summer because he can sweat better. So Bakugo really only had one hand. Bakugo would go for an attack. As Bakugo would let off another giant explosion like the one he did for Uraraka. Todoroki would be almost out of bounds. Todoroki would say, "I can't lose hair, not until I beat Midoriya." All of a sudden, he'd stomp on the ground as everything would start to turn blue. Bakugo would say this again, as he'd start to explode. As Bakugo would say, "Shoot, I can't use my other hand." I remember, he'd start exploding with one hand, but eventually he'd catch up. Bakugo would be frozen. Todoroki would win the match. Todoroki. Now, you're wondering how it didn't happen in the original? One, they didn't have time to talk. Bakugo wouldn't really have entered the wrong room. Two, Todoroki didn't use his fire all tournament, but Bakugo would still persist with him, but Todoroki wouldn't have listened this time. Three, Todoroki, this time, in the original, Todoroki would have gone to shoot his fire at Bakugo, but after hearing Endeavor verse, Todoroki would just decide to throw Bakugo. So in this version, no Endeavor verse means Todoroki would have just grabbed Bakugo and freezes his hand. Bakugo, if your hand is frozen, do you think you can sweat? No. Okay. So that was it. Now the final. Deku versus Todoroki. While the match was going on, Deku was trying to get the basics of this new power he had, hopefully to use it. The match would start as while walking out. Wait, hold up. The match would start while walking out. Deku would be prompted by Endeavor to try to let Todoroki use his fire side. Midoriya would say that Shoto was his own person, not his son, before walking out. As he'd say, "I have to change his mind." And that's where I'll leave it off. In the next part, I'll cover work studies and the end of this match. And then in the part after that, I'll cover the finals. And after that, I'll just cover the training arc. And after that, you get it. Like the video if you actually liked it. I don't really care if you do, but if you did enjoy it, like the video. In fact, yeah. I'm gonna do what those other YouTubers do. I want 5 likes on this video. If I don't get... if this video can get 5 likes in 1 week, then I will make part 2. But if it can get 10 likes, immediately after it gets 10 likes, I'll just make part 4. It's not part 2, I meant part 4. Anyway, enjoy.